Hi, my name is Hannah Jinkle, and this is my Cultural Awareness Project. My culture of choice was elderly living. I was excited for this project and looked forward to getting to know the residents of this community and was curious to see how a day in the life of a retirement center's activity planner would compare to the day of a third grade teacher. I chose the elderly because I assumed it was the most drastic difference from my own life. At the age of 24, I like to think I'm still young and hip. I have two toddlers and spend my day with 8 and 9-year-olds, so what's more opposite than spending a day with 90-year-olds? I chose a facility near my home called Atria Kingwood. Upon getting in touch with the facility, Atria was obviously excited at the thought of having a fresh face in the building, and that made me excited to start. On my first day, I was greeted by a couple residents sitting on the porch. It seemed peaceful, and they seemed happy enough. As I walked in to my left, was a group of women watching the morning news. They were all dressed so nicely and sat so straight and prim. I couldn't help but wonder why they would be living in an assisted living facility. I was then greeted by the facility director, who informed me morning exercise was about to begin. So I followed her up the stairs and we began to prepare the activity room for exercise hour. I learned real quick how out of the loop I was when I went for the weights I saw in a back basket and was told, "This is an assisted living facility, they can't use weights." I felt pretty stupid and thought, well, why do you have them then? But I just laughed it off and kept rearranging. As silly as it was, though, that moment freaked me out. Here I am, a young whippersnapper, literally came here from the gym where I'm running miles, tossing up weights, and eating burgers on the way home. Am I so out of touch with the realities of the elderly that I think they can do the same? In this moment, I thought of my classroom and the way I live my life compared to my students. Am I out of touch with their realities too? At this assisted living facility, I had the advantage of someone calling me out on my ridiculous expectations, but in my classroom, I don't have that luxury. These students will strive to do what's asked of them because they don't know better and want to make me proud. What weights have I been asking my third graders to lift that they aren't prepared for? As time went by, volunteering at the assisted living facility became really enjoyable, both for myself and the residents I came into contact with. It seemed our connection was good and I was welcomed in their space. On my third day, I was proud but a little disheartened by a resident's comment upon seeing me again. 3 days in a row, he said, that never happens. I've never seen a volunteer past 2. Of course, this made me proud, like, yeah, I'm still here. But how terrible is it that that is the reality many of these residents face? This, among other reasons, is why I chose not to take any pictures while I was there. I didn't want to give off the impression that this was just a project for me that I would be dropping as soon as my due date passed, and I didn't want the residents to feel as if I was just another flyby. This was another connection I made back to my classroom. My presence in their life means something, and my absence means something greater. Of course, these elderly residents are past a point in their lives where my presence really affects their future, but it absolutely does affect their feelings, which can affect their health. How many friends do these people have outside of the women giving their medicine? How many young adults do they get to interact with aside from their teenage grandchildren who feel weird being there? This is the same experience my students have, but in different manners. How many people in their lives are consistent? How many people are encouraging their passions and celebrating their victories? Consistency and reliability is key in these relationships, and I was thankful for this opportunity to see it matters past elementary. During exercise hour, there were always 2 or 3 residents sleeping. Part of the song would have a quicker tempo, and one would wake up kicking their feet, following along with the class. After exercise, we would read the daily newsletter and usually play a word game in which a word was given and you had to find as many different words as possible using the letters. I loved this game and the residents seemed to really enjoy it as well, and it was great to see their wheels turning and the collaboration between the group on what would work, what wouldn't, what we had already found, and what we hadn't. This is a game I actually took back to the classroom with me and is now one of our morning meeting activities. My students love it just as much as the residents do, and it's nice to see that same interaction with my third graders as I did at the facility. Making my rounds one morning, I knocked on a resident's door to see if they were coming to exercise. She opened the doors in tears, saying she was in pain and the nurse never came to give her medicine. She was in hysterics and I was not equipped to handle the situation. She told me she woke up in the middle of the night and was looking for someone to help her to give her medicine and wandered in the halls with her flashlight to find someone to help her. The nurse was just down the hall, so I called her in to see what was going on. She said she just simply hadn't made it to her room yet and that she doesn't get medicine at night. All residents have buttons they wear to press when they need assistance and no one is around. And my friend here did not press her button last night. The nurse said there was staff, however, in the building and the lights weren't off in the hallway. I was so confused as to why she would make up such a story and how she had worked herself up to tears in telling it. By the end of the conversation, my friend was brought back down to level and given her medicine she so desired. Upon leaving the room, I was told she's in the early stages of dementia and is falling fast with stories such as that. I was so heartbroken for her and never imagined she would have that struggle. This was a common theme I found among many of the residents I came into contact with. I had conversations with many, or I learned about their families, where they were from, how they kept their hair so nice and their outfits so fancy. We talked and laughed, and no concerns were ever evident, and then they would get up out of their seat and had wet themselves at some point during our conversation. I wasn't aware of the internal struggles these residents were having just through conversation. Health was never mentioned, they never seemed in need of help, and then they would stand up wet. Maybe they weren't aware, or maybe they weren't ready for me to be the one who helped, but their bodies and their minds were asking for help in ways they couldn't control. How many times had I missed it in their eyes while we talked? How many ways were their bodies telling me things I wasn't qualified to understand and missed? Were they even trying to tell me things? Did they not want me to know? This is another connection I made to my classroom. In third grade, cries for help aren't usually in terms of health, but they are just as present and important. In what ways are my students asking me for help outside of just math and science? What is happening at home that's affecting their daily lives? Have they tried to tell me? Do they even want me to know? And if I do know, am I equipped to deal with these issues? This was a beneficial experience that I was forced to really think deeply about the experience my students face and how I connect to those experiences, and how my actions can affect the outcomes. My time at Atria Kingwood was beneficial in many ways. I'm so thankful for the experience with the residents there and look forward to my future time spent at the facility. By the end of the time of my time set to be there, I was asked to teach a weekly class on photography and lead the residents in their creative journeys. I'm so excited for this opportunity and look forward to the many lessons I'll learn throughout the experience and the friends that I'll gain in knowing my group of residents. I learned a lot about myself through this experience and was able to relate many things back to my own classroom and the experiences of my students. Am I being consistent enough? Am I reading between the lines of what my students try to tell me? Am I stepping out of my point of view to see things the way they do? All of these questions are important not only in the classroom, but in all interactions with anyone. While I had fun volunteering and made friends I am forever thankful for, it was truly a moment of self-reflection and continues to be a mindset I've kept. I learned that the opposite end is not so opposite, and there's a lot to be learned about yourself and those around you through immersing yourself into the lifestyle of others.